So we need to know the basic concept of the stimuli and receptor, control and coordination in plants. What are the nastic movements? How does a plant hormone is important? And coordination in animals. It will be with the nervous system, control and coordination in humans. This all part is dealing with this. Now, okay. So, according to the chapter, we are going to deal with the stimuli and receptor. Now, you should know what is this two part. Now, any change in the environment to which an organism respond and react is called stimulus. मतलब environment में या कोई भी organism respond करता है या react करता है तो वो उसका nervous reflexes होते हैं या stimuli होता है. Example, plants bend towards light. हाथ में मच्छर काटा, आपने दाहिना हाथ को उठा के उसके ऊपर मारा. It's a stimulus. जैसे एक पेड़ होता है जिसका नाम होता है टच मी नॉट. जैसे आप उसको छुएंगे वो पेड़ के जो लीव्स होंगे वो बुझ जाते हैं. Stimuli are detected by the group of cells called receptors. They are called receptors. Now, they are called receptors. The stimuli are detected by the group of cells called receptors. For example, our skin, eyes, ear, nose, and tongue contain different receptors. Eyes contain light receptors that is sensitive to light. Ears contain sound receptors sensitive to sound. Nose contain smell receptor sensitive to chemical stimuli. Tongue contains taste receptor sensitive to chemical stimuli. Now skin contain receptors sensitive to touch, pressure, temperature, and pain. So we have 5 types of receptors. One is photoreceptors that are sensitive to light. One is phonoreceptors sensitive to sound. Olfactoreceptors sensitive to smell. Thermoreceptor sensitive to temperature. And thigmoreceptors that is sensitive to touch. तो 5 टाइप के रिसेप्टर्स हमारे दिमाग में रखना होगा. We all know that plant and animal respond to stimuli in a different way. So, control and coordination in plants need to be studied. Now, whenever we are going into the control and coordination part, we will see that the introduction, plant hormones, auxin, cytokinins, gibberellins, ethylene, aspartic acid. So these are my particular part that we need to know. Other than that, we have different types of tropism like phototropism and geotropism. Now, before moving into the detailed part of the chapter, we should learn about that plants also need internal coordination for their growth and development. But plants do not have a nervous system, but still they respond to the internal, external changes in the environment. How? Therefore, since plants do not have a nervous system, they use hormones for coordination and responses. Plants do not have a nervous system. So they use hormones for coordination and responses. Therefore, we can say the function of control and coordination of plants is performed by chemical substances called hormones. There is tropic movement and nastic movement. Now, plant movements can be of two types. One is tropic movement and nastic movement. Now, what is tropism? The environment has a great influence on the plant shape. A growth response that result in the movement of plant towards or away from stimuli is called tropism. Now we have positive tropism and negative tropism. That means when the growth movement of the plant part is toward the stimulus, is called positive tropism. When the growth movement of the plant is against or away from the stimulus, it is called negative tropism. So there are 5 types of tropism found in plants: phototropism, geotropism, hydrotropism, chemotropism, and thigmotropism. Now, over here in the slide, we can see that the plants only show movement of their body parts and do not move according to that. The stem of a plant shows movement towards light, जो मैं आपको बता रहा था. The root of the plant show movement toward the soil and water. So they have their own way of movements. So movement in plants, you have growth independent movement, that is a nastic movement. Growth independent movement को nastic movement बोलेंगे. Growth dependent movement को tropic movement बोलेंगे. Growth independent movement, nastic movement. Growth dependent movement, tropic movement. Growth independent movement के ऊपर अब हम लोग आगे बढ़े. So movement in response to stimulus in which growth is not involved. Movement in response to stimulus in which growth is not involved. Can be slow or fast. Direction of nastic movements independent of the stimulus position. Now, thigmonastic response to touch. ये टच मी नॉट प्लांट का जो मैंने अभी आपको एग्जाम्पल दिया, जिसको हम लोग लाजवंती कहते हैं. क्लोजिंग ऑफ leaflets of the leaves of the sensitive plants like lajvanti. When you touch, the leaves will fold it of the touch me not. Now there is a particular video I want to share with you.
Like all living organisms, plants too respond to changes in their environment. Here, the response has been shown in touch me not plant. The plant is sensitive to touch, hence, when touched, it produces a response. During the response, the leaves get folded and then droop down.
So this is a small example that we have seen over here, right? That Venus flytrap, leaves closing when touched by an insect. That means it's a movement. The photonasty, that is response to light, as I told you. Leaves of oxalis droop down during the night. Droop down, मतलब सो जाते हैं, लगता है ऐसा. Growth dependent movement में अगर जाएंगे, तो movement caused due to the growth of the parts of the plant. The tropic movements, इसके बारे में मैं आपको बात कर रहा था. तो directional movement either towards or away from stimuli. अब इसके नीचे मैंने कहा पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव. लेट्स सी. ट्रॉपिक मूवमेंट्स में अगर हम लोग क्लिक करें तो फोटोट्रोपिज्म, हाइड्रोट्रोपिज्म, जियोट्रोपिज्म, केमोट्रोपिज्म, इसके बारे में मैं अभी बात कर रहा था आपसे, जिसके बारे में मैंने कहा, और थिग्मोटोरिज्म. सो दिस आर माय पर्टिकुलर पार्ट. जियोट्रोपिज्म क्या होता है? Movement of the movement of the parts of a plant in response to the Earth's gravity. तो Earth's gravity की तरफ वो बढ़ रहे हैं. Movement of the roots of plants towards Earth, right? movement of the shoot away from the gravity. So when you are telling about the geotropism, some parts you need to mention, like talking about geotropism, the downward movement of roots in response to the gravitational force of the earth. Root shows a positive geotropism, while shoot shows negative geotropism. ये चीज दिमाग में रखना होगा कि रूट पॉजिटिव जियोट्रोपिज्म शो करता है और शूट नेगेटिव जियोट्रोपिज्म शो करता है. जहां पे मैं बोलूंगा नोट करना है, इसका मतलब है इस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट से आपका क्वेश्चंस कॉमन होंगे. You need to know that. इसके पार्ट क्या पार्ट? After this, we are coming down to the hydrotropic movements. If we are talking about the hydrotropic movement or hydrotropism, that movement in response to water. So the movement of plant parts toward water or moisture is called hydrotropism. The roots always grow towards water. Therefore, roots are positively hydrotropic. Roots are positively hydrotropic. Now, movements of the root of the plants deeper in soil in search of water. Roots growing into the ground in search of water. Right? Now, there's a small video, like 1 minute, I think so.
Plants do not move like animals, but they respond to certain stimuli, like light, water, gravity, etc. Tropic movements are the directional movements that take place either towards or away from the stimuli. The movement of plant organ in response to water as stimulus is called hydrotropism. The response can be either positive, that is, towards water, or negative, that is, away from water. Roots show positive hydrotropism as they grow towards water. It can be easily demonstrated by placing germinating seeds on wire mesh and covering them with moist cotton. Within few days, seeds germinate and radicals come out of the pores of the wire mesh due to positive geotropism. But soon the radicals bend towards the moist surface of the cotton and continue to grow. This demonstrates that roots are positively hydrotropic. Hydrotropism is important as it ensures adequate water availability for plants.
So we look at about the hydrotropism. Now the next part will be the phototropism. The movement or we can say the growth and the movement of a plant part in response to the light is called phototropism. For example, movement of sunflower in the direction of sunlight is phototropism. If the plant part moves toward the light when it shows positive phototropism. If the plant part moves away from the light when it shows negative phototropism, let's see. Shoot positively phototropic, roots negatively phototropic. Steps in phototropism: detection of light by the growing plants, synthesis of auxin at shoot tip. ये पार्ट अभी छोड़ के रखो क्योंकि ऑक्सिन हमारा प्लांट हार्मोन है जो हम लोगों ने अभी तक डील नहीं किया है, तो डील करेंगे जब हमारा आइडियाज क्लियर हो जाएगा. डिफ्यूजन ऑफ Yeah, tell me.
Sir, yeah.
Now, so sight and phototropism, detection of light by growing plant, synthesis of auxin at the shoot tip, diffusion of auxin toward the shady side of the shoot, growth at the shady portion to cause bending towards light. So ये मेरा कुछ steps था phototropism. Now the next part. I think we'll have a small video according to that. 1 minute.
Growth is regarded as one of the most fundamental characteristics of all living organisms. The growth can be defined as a permanent or irreversible increase in the size of an organ or organism. Plants depend upon various internal and external factors for their growth. The external factors or stimuli include water, temperature, oxygen, and light, which plays an important role in the growth of plants. The growth movements that occur in the direction related to the stimuli, for example light, is called tropic movement. When growth movements in plant occur in response to the light, it is called phototropism. In the presence of light source, plants manufacture a growth stimulant or auxin at their tips, which is transported from apex to the base. But when a portion of plant part is illuminated, auxin is transported towards the non-illuminated side of it. Due to this, the cells present on non-illuminated side of the plant divide rapidly and results in the bending of plant. The phenomenon of phototropism can be easily demonstrated by an experiment in which plant seedlings are kept in the dark with a unidirectional light source. Initially, plant seedlings grow upright, but later these start growing towards the light source. This response in plant helps them to receive more light. When the position of light source is changed, it is observed that the direction of bending of plant seedlings also gets changed. Based on this observation, it can be concluded that the stem shows positive phototropism.
सर सर
Sorry guys. Yeah, tell me.
सर
बोलिए.
क्या हुआ था सर?
It's
सर
fine.
सर कंप्यूटर हैंग कर गया.
नहीं, there was a call, that's why it is disconnected. No issue with that. Okay, now we have gone the different parts like chemotropism, thigmotropism, geotropism, hydrotropism. Let's see the next part. It is chemotropism. I think this is the last part of the tropism. The chemotropism, if I explain that, the movement of the plant part due to the chemical stimuli is the chemotropism. For example, we can say pollen tubes grow through the style toward the ovules in response to the subtle chemical secretion from stigma. It will be visible to you by a video. It will be more visible and you will understand the part what I am talking about. So let's see the movements of the parts of plant in response to certain chemicals. The movement of the pollen tube towards the ovules. ये चित्र आपको देख रहा है जहाँ पे पोलन के साथ पोलन ट्यूब और ओव्यूल का बात यहाँ पे दिखाया गया है. इसके अलावा अगर आप लोग चीजों को नोटिस करेंगे, so it will be easier for to understand the thing. Now we are coming down to the straight to the plant hormone. Now before starting the plant hormone, we should know that why these hormones are needed. Now, plants produce certain chemical substances in their cells, which regulate their growth. These chemicals are secreted in very small quantity, but they have a physiological process in a plant. Some of these chemicals stimulate plant growth, while other retard the rate of growth of plants. So we can say that these chemicals are known as the plant growth regulators or plant hormones or phytohormones. Plant hormones, plant growth regulator or phytohormones. There are mainly 5 types of natural occurring plant hormones or plant growth regulators are there. Auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene, and aspartic acid. Now, auxin is our first part. Auxin is the growth hormone which helps the cells to grow longer. It is mainly synthesized at the shoot and the root tip as shown to you by the video. Therefore, it has an opposite effect on the growth of the stem and root. Now, auxin controls the phototropic behavior of a plant. That means when light comes from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses from the light towards shady side of the shoot. When the light comes from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses away from the light towards the shady side of the shoot. Now the higher concentration of auxin towards the shady areas stimulate the cells to grow longer and faster, and the plant appears to bend toward light. It also controls the geotropic behavior of a plant. It also controls the geotropic behavior of a plant. So if anybody asks you that what is the function of auxin, we can say that auxin is a plant growth hormone which helps the cell to grow longer. It also controls the phototropic behavior of a plant. It also controls the geotropic behavior of a plant. This would be the answer for the function. Now, next will be my gibberellins. Gibberellin promotes cell enlargement in the presence of auxins. It promotes the cell division and stimulates the cell elongation process. Cell division and cell elongation process. It also stimulates seed germination by breaking the seed dormancy. So let's see what our slide is telling us. Chemical use for the control and coordination. Required in small quantities, also known as plant growth regulators. Auxin, cytokinins, gibberellins, ethylene, aspartic acid. These are my examples. Auxin was first isolated from human urine. तो human urine से isolated हुआ था. The chemical name of the molecule is indole 3-acetic acid or IAA. The chemical name of the molecule is indole 3-acetic acid or IAA. It produced at the growing tips of the root and shoot. It helps in the root induction. It also promotes flowering in some plants like pineapple. So we can see a lot of functions over here. Auxin also include indole butyric acid, that is IBA. Naphthalene acetic acid, NAA. 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, 2,4,4-D. They are the natural and synthetic group of substances which have growth regulating activities in plants. So if anybody asks you that IBA or NAA is included in auxin, your answer will be yes. If a full form is asked to you, it should be naphthalene acetic acid. Okay. Now, initiation of rooting in stem. Cutting is a property of auxin. Let's see what it's telling.
Growth can be defined as an irreversible permanent increase in the size of an organ or its part. A plant keeps growing throughout its lifetime. This is a very prominent feature of green plants. There are certain specific external and internal factors which govern the growth of a plant. Any of these can prove to be limiting. Environmental signals such as light influence growth of plants. Plants require sunlight for almost 8 to 10 hours every day. Plants respond to light by bending in the direction of the light. Growth movements shown by the plants in response to the light in their environment are called phototropism. Growth towards the source of light is called positive phototropism, whereas growth away from the source is termed as negative phototropism. Roots grow downward and away from light. This allows the roots to penetrate deep under the soil and anchor the plant firmly in the soil. Meanwhile, plant leaves absorb as much sunlight as possible for photosynthesis. Plants must make their own food to survive and thus have the ability to capture as much of this light energy as is possible. This is crucial to its survival.
So this part already told to you before. Now cytokines promote the increased cell division. Increased cell division को promote करता है. It is also known as gibberellic acid. What is the particular part of gibberellic acid? Sorry, हम लोगों ने कुछ part miss कर गए. Now they produce new leaves and the chloroplast. They have enhanced the lateral shoot growth and adventitious shoot development. They also overcome apical dominance. Some adenine type cytokines are getakin, kinetin, and 6-benzyloaminopurine. So these are my particular cytokinins that we need to remember. Now the next part will be gibberellin. It's also known as the gibberellic acid. Gibberellic acid was one of the first isolated GA in nature. It causes growth of the internodes, increasing the length of the stalks and the delay senescence in plants. It also causes commercial fruits like apples to grow in size and attain attractive shape. So a lot of particular part is involved over here. The long internode of sugarcane by the application of GA makes it a more profitable crop. Ethylene, only gaseous plant hormone. This is the only gaseous plant hormone. Stimulate fruit ripening and induces horizontal growth of seedling. Horizontal growth of seedling. So we can see the example. Now, it promotes the absorption and the senescence of plant hormone. How? It has many biological roles and hence it most frequently used for the plant hormone. Sprouting in potato tubers can be induced by the application of ethylene. Aspartic acid, it is name derived from the phenomena known as addition. It also known as the aging hormone. Around 2 minutes. It increases tolerance of plants to various kinds of stresses from a stress hormone. It inhibits seed germination. So it includes seed dormancy also. So it relates to the changes associated with senescence and aging. So it's related with the aging part. Now, open stoma in absence of ABA and stoma closed in the presence of ABA. What is it? The regulation and of opening and closing of stomal aperture by ABA. I can describe this particular part later part of the chapter when we will learn about certain materials of ABA. Please guys follow this video, it's important.
Plant growth and development is not only controlled by intrinsic factors, but it is also influenced by some external factors. External factors include temperature, light, oxygen, water, and seasonal variations. During the winter season, the rate of absorption of water by plants from the ground is low. Continuous evaporation of water from the leaves can lead to drying out of a plant. So, plants start to shed their leaves to conserve water. Shedding of leaves is an active process. Shedding allows trees to maintain the most effective and efficient way of their survival. During the winter season, when the temperature starts to drop and days become shorter, trees carry out less photosynthesis and hence their metabolic rate also decreases. Leaves turn yellow in autumn because of the reduction of chlorophyll in them due to a decrease in the sunlight. Leaves of some trees also turn red or orange. Falling of leaves is thus accompanied by the increased visibility of the yellow or orange pigments called carotenoids, which were previously masked by chlorophyll pigment. The loss of chlorophyll and the slow action of the photosynthetic enzymes also contribute towards the abscission process. Abscission is a process in which a plant sheds one or more of its parts, such as leaf, fruit, flower, or seed. The process is correlated with regular seasonal changes. Before winter, most of the deciduous plants shed their leaves by abscission. However, shedding of leaves in evergreen plants is a continuous process. Prior to any natural abscission that may take place, leaves, flowers, or fruits undergo senescence. Senescence is a biological process of aging that leads to deterioration of organs and further results into death of an organism. Senescence can occur in the whole plant or in its parts. For example, in some deciduous trees, during autumn season, the stem and the roots remain alive while senescence of leaves occurs. After senescence, abscission of leaves takes place. In plants, the abscission zone, also known as the separation zone, is formed at the base of the petiole. The cellular layer secretes pectinase and cellulase, wall degradation enzymes. These enzymes weaken the strength of the middle lamella and the primary wall between the cells. Hence, the middle lamella, which holds these cells together, begins to dissolve. The formation of the abscission zone or clog has two advantages. Firstly, it acts as a barrier against infection. Secondly, it allows leaves to fall easily from a tree. In the process of leaf abscission, a number of biochemical and physical changes are controlled by plant hormones. Auxin influences the development of the abscission layer. In a young leaf, auxin is produced in relatively high concentrations and is steadily transported out of a leaf through the petiole. As long as the auxin level remains high in the plant, both senescence and abscission are delayed. With a decrease in the auxin level, the catabolic reactions begin to outnumber the anabolic processes. With the increase in the catabolic reactions in plants, the level of abscisic acid rises. Abscisic acid derives its name from abscission. This hormone is produced in mature leaves and then transported to the rest of the plant. It initiates and maintains the abscission process in plants. It is also known as the aging hormone. Thus, internal factors like hormonal control and external factors like temperature and duration of sunlight lead to abscission, which thereby allows a plant to tolerate seasonal variation. It serves as an important survival technique.
I hope about the doubts what you have in your minds. 90%